Hey guys, hope you guys had a good 2 weeks off. I wish I was on site, but as you can probably tell, I'm not at school at the moment. I got asked to go on a Year 9 camp, so I'll be there. I'm doing this pretty late at night, so I'm going to be talking pretty softly. So turn the volume up if you need to. Essentially, what I'm going to be going through is I'm going to be going through what chapter is it? It is 1F. I'm going to be going through 1F, and I'll give you guys probably 2 lessons to do this one. Then I'll link, not my video, but someone else's video on 1G. And then at the end of next week, we're going to do our chapter 1 test. So essentially, this week I'll give you content to do while I'm not there. Next week will be the whole week, will be, except for the last lesson, will be revision. We'll go over everything and ask whatever questions you need. I'm trying my best to get a math teacher to be in there to help you guys out as well if you're stuck, because it's hard to teach you stuff online. But yeah, we'll get through this. I'm only going to do one take of this, so if I stutter or anything like that, please bear with me. So 1G is looking at graphing straight lines. So this is stuff you've done from year 8, I think it is. So it should be consolidating, so you should know a bit about it. But again, I say this every time. If you don't know, don't stress. I'm going to teach you basically what I want to see, how to actually work it out, and how to use our calculator to make life easier. Because don't forget, you're always going to have that calculator with you. So I've got some notes here. I'll upload them in the Google Classroom as well, so you guys can copy those notes as well. So when we're attempting to graph a straight line, we always want it in the y is equal to mx plus c form. So this form here, right? That's the form we always want it in when we're graphing straight lines. Now, a quick refresher. In this equation, Rm, so I'll use black. Rm, so this part here, represents our gradient, which is known as the slope. So what that means is how far right the graph goes for every one up it goes as well. So in this equation, m represents a gradient. So we have this example here. So for example, y is equal to 2x plus 10. When we're comparing it to our y is equal to mx plus c form, because remember, that's the equation of a line. That's the form we want it in. When we're comparing to that, we can see that R2 is in the same spot as m. That means our m is 2, or that means that our gradient is 2. So that's the first thing to note. Now, that's our m. We also have our c. So in our y is equal to mx plus c, our c represents our y-intercept, or the point on the graph, or a number that passes through the y-axis. So in this example, so same example as before, y is equal to 2x plus 10. We can see that if we're comparing it to y equals mx plus c, so if we're comparing it to this form, which is the form we want it in, we can see that our 10 is in our c spot. That means our y-intercept is 10. So that means that the line passes through y is equal to 10. So that's a bit of a refresher. Now, sometimes, this is a bit of a thingy, but sometimes equations aren't given in the y equals mx plus c form. So for example, we have this one here. So we have 3x plus 3y is equal to 12. But remember, we want it in this form. Y is equal to mx plus c. So you can see here that it looks nothing alike. Previously, you guys would have to rearrange the equation, but now we have our calculators. So all we're going to do is we're going to solve for y in our calculator. And here I've written the steps. So our first, at the top of our screen, we want to click advanced, action, then advanced, and then solve. Then we want to put in our equation. So for instance, solve, and that bracket will come up when you press solve. You're going to put that equation in. So we're putting 3x plus 3y is equal to 12. And you have to put a comma y and then close the bracket. This comma y is really, really important. It tells the calculator to solve for y, not x. So previously we've been solving for x, so sometimes people have not been putting it. But when we're solving for y, we have to put y so it knows to solve for y. And then our calculator gives us the answer. So the calculator gave me the answer, y is equal to negative x plus 4, and that's in our y is equal to mx plus c form. It's just that there's an imaginary 1 there. So if I were to write it, it would be that. And that's how y equals mx plus c form, but don't stress too much about that. So that's a quick recap of stuff hopefully you are kind of remembering, but that's how we do it on a calculator. Now, going on to the actual work that we're doing in this exercise, we'll be deciding if a point or if a coordinate, that's a word, a coordinate lies on a line, and we're also going to be graphing lines. So to find out if a point is on a line, all we do is we substitute the points into the equation. So let's look here. So to decide if the point -2, 7 is on the line with the given equations. So here I have my first one is y is equal to -3x plus 1, and my second one is 2x plus 2y equals to 1. Now because I'm not graphing, I don't really care about it being y equals mx plus c form, so all I'm going to do is substitute my values. So when we're doing coordinates, just like in the alphabet, x comes before y, so when we're writing coordinates, it goes x comma y. What that means here is my x is -2 and my y is 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute x equals -2 and y is equal to 7 into the equation. So you can see here, I've let it equal 7, I've let x equal 2, and all we're going to do from here is we're just solving the right hand side of the equation. So 7 is equal to -3 times -2 plus 1, and negative times a negative is a positive. You can calculate if you want, honestly it doesn't bother me. And we end up with 7 equals to 7. So since the statement is true, what that tells me is the points -2, 7 lie on the graph y is equal to -3x plus 1. That's all we're doing. So for the same thing for the second one, all I'm doing is substituting these 2 points into this equation here. So I've written out the equation. So we have 2x plus 2y is equal to 1. And all I'm doing is I'm doing the same thing again, substituting x is equal to -2 and y is equal to 7. So you can see here I've got 2, -2 plus 2 times 7 is equal to 1. I'm going to solve the left hand side. 2 times -2 is -4. 2 times 7 is 14. If I solve that, I get 10 is equal to 1. And obviously that doesn't make sense. So since that statement isn't correct, what it tells me is our points -2 and 7 do not lie on the graph 2x plus 2y is equal to 1. That's all we do for that one. If you get stuck, ask the teacher, ask each other. But yeah, this is going to be good to know because you'll be doing it later on as well. Now, on to the meaty part. So how to graph straight lines. So there are a few ways that the textbook will ask you to do it. So for instance, it might say sketching lines using the gradient intercept method. Or it might say sketching graphs using our y-intercept and x-intercept method. Regardless of whichever way it asks you to do it, I want you to do it the way I'm going to show you now. So I want you to always write down the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and the gradient. And I'm going to show you how. So we're going to use a calculator for all of this. So I'm going to look at example A. Y is equal to 2x minus 1. Now I might forget this because I'm using my iPad and I've got to do everything on my iPad. Okay, so I managed to download the CAS calculator on my iPad. Don't know if it's legal. Don't really care. But yeah, so you guys will have this screen up normally. So you can see I've just put a solve to solve for x, to solve for y. So this is what you guys normally have. What you guys are going to do is in the bottom, you can see that it says menu. You guys are going to click on menu and it'll bring you to this screen. Your screen will look a bit different to mine. Mine's a free version of the app, so it doesn't have everything. But you'll have access to something called graph and table. You want to click on that one. So graph and table, and you'll be brought to this screen. From here, all you're going to do is you're going to put the equation of our graph in there. Now remember, we want it in y is equal to mx plus c form. So we might have to rearrange the equation, but yeah. So for instance, that one back there, it was y is equal to 2x minus 1. All I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in here. So that y is there, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to put after the y, 2x minus 1. I'm going to press EXE so it selects that. I'm going to close my keyboard. And you're going to be left with this. Now make sure it's ticked and make sure you've written it correctly. And then in the top left, I wish I could show you like where I'm tapping. Above where it says sheet 1, there's like this graph symbol here. You can see it now, it's blue. That's what we want to press. And that's going to graph our line. Now sometimes it might be super zoom, so it might look like something like this. So you won't see anything. What you're going to do is, at the top, you're going to press zoom, At the top, you're going to press zoom, and then you're going to press auto. And what that does is it zooms into where it thinks is important, and I'll show you that. If you don't like it, you can press the magnifying glass as well, just to get a better look. But this is what we see. So this is our equation, this is our graph of that straight line. And that's what we say, and that's what we want, right? So, there's a few things. So remember I said that I want you to write down 3 things. I want you to write down the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and the gradient. I'm going to show you how. So our gradient, remember that our gradient is our m in our y is equal to mx plus c form. So you can see here that m is represented by 2. So my gradient equals to 2. So that part you don't need a calculator for, you can just look at the thing you do it, the equation I'm looking at. But now we've got our graph here, how are we actually going to draw it? Because I want to find my x-intercept, so what that is, my x-intercept is where it passes through the x-axis. So you can't see, you can see my hand. So this is the x-axis going along this way. I want to find out that number that it passes through. And I want to find out the y, so this line here, where it passes through the y-intercept. The way I do this is if you look at the top, there's next to zoom, there's analysis. Oh, I don't know where that went. If you ever click off and this doesn't come up, you just got to press that graph button again. So click on analysis, click on G-solve. Now if you click on root, you can see in the bottom, it tells me xc equal to c. So x is equal to 0.5 when y is equal to 0. And that point there, so I'm going to put it in red here, root in calculator equals x-intercept. So my x-intercept was, what was it? I can see in the bottom left it says 0.5, so that's 0.5. And now I'm also going to find my, so I've done my x-intercept, I've done my gradient, I want to find my y-intercept. So my y-intercept, I'm going to go back to that one. If I click on analysis again, G-solve, and I click on y-intercept, it'll give me that. So I can see here that y is equal to -1 when x is equal to 0. So I know where to go. There we go. So my y-intercept is equal to -1. And I prefer if you would like a highlight, underline or something like this. My gradient is that, my y-intercept, x-intercept is that, y-intercept is that. So those are 3 things I always want you to find. You can use your calculator. I prefer you use a calculator, it'll be easier, quicker. Those are the 3 points I always want you to write whenever we're looking at graphs. Our gradient, our x-intercept, and our y-intercept. From here, we're left with probably the easiest part, which is graphing. All I'm going to do is, I'm going to draw, you can look at the calculator, but you don't need it anymore. This is all the information you need. I'm going to draw my axes like this. Remember, x is our horizontal, y is our vertical. Now I know my x-intercept is 0.5. What that tells me is it passes through here at 0.5. I also know my y-intercept is -1. That's -1. So all I've got to do is just draw a line that connects these 2 together. Maybe I won't use blue actually, maybe I'll use red. A line that connects these 2 together and keeps it going. Like that. And that's my straight line graph done. So I'm going to do the same thing for the next one. So b is equal to 2x plus 2, b 2x plus 3y is equal to 3. 2x plus 3y, yep. So now remember, we always want it in our y is equal to mx plus c form. I can see that that's not like that. So what that means is I've got to put it in our solve, and I've got to solve for y. So I'm going to do solve 2x plus 3y is equal to 3, comma y in my calculator. So I'm going to go to menu, main, action, advanced, solve. 2x plus 3y is equal to 3. comma y close bracket exc. Now sometimes you get something like this. You can keep it like that, or if you want to go to standard, you can do that. I'll probably put it in. I won't do that. Confused you guys. There we go. Okay. There we go. So for y is equal to negative 0.67, because I'm going to round it, x plus 1. So I'm going to copy that. So y is equal to negative 0.67 x plus 1, I think it was. Yeah. So now I've got my equation of a straight line. I have my y, I have my m, I have my x, I have my c. So it's in the form that we want. Now remember, we want three things before we graph. We want our gradient, we want our x-intercept, and we want our y-intercept. Our gradient is given by our m, which in this case is negative 0.67. Now I can go back to my graph, so menu, graphing table, delete this one and put it in, delete this, no, this delete. It's negative 0.67x plus 1. I've graphed it, and now remember I want analysis gsolve root. I can see here x is equal to 1.49, so my x-intercept is equal to 1.49. My y-intercept, I go to analysis gsolve y-intercept, it equals to 1. So I have the 3 points that I want, ding, 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 I can graph it. Exactly the same as before. I'm going to draw my graph. This is x, this is y. I know that my y-intercept is 1, so it passes through the graph here at 1, and my x-intercept is 1.49, so it'll be about here. And again, all I've got to do is connect the two dots, like that. And that's my graph, and if I go back and have a look, it's the same kind of thing. I know it's a long video, almost 20 minutes long. Break it up if you need to. But that's how we do everything. If you have any questions, if Mr. McHale's in the classroom, ask him. If not, shoot me an email, because please, we need to make sure we do good in this test. So yeah, that's about it. I'm really sorry about not being there again. I'll make it up to you guys next week. Other than that, have a good week, guys. I'll see you on Monday next week.